There's a grand tradition that millions of Americans participate in, yet few are familiar with its name. I'm talking about rusticating, or the act of retiring to a rural area. These days, we simply call it vacationing. The uniquely American form of rusticating began in the mid to late 1800s. As eastern cities expanded with industrialization, the upper class began looking for places to escape the urban stench and swelter. Many migrated to the coast, but others set a course for the cool northern mountains, woods, and lakes, where they could breathe the restorative fresh air and engage in healthful outdoor activities such as hiking, fishing, paddling, swimming, and sailing. Grand resorts and sporting camps sprang up to accommodate this young nation of nature seekers. Fanning the flames of this movement were popular writers and painters of the time, artists and philosophers such as Winslow Homer, Henry David Thoreau, Thomas Cole, and James Fenimore Cooper, who promoted the idea of nature as a source of wonder, inspiration, and self-betterment. It's a philosophy that many people still subscribe to, an enduring chapter in our nation's evolving relationship with the environment. Explore New England is brought to you by your New England Ford dealers, your local REI co-op. REI believes a life outdoors is a life well lived. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance. And visitnewengland.com. Additional funding and support for this episode was provided by the North Country Chamber of Commerce, Bangor Savings Bank, the Coas Economic Development Corporation, the Borders Development Corporation, and the State of New Hampshire. The Great North Woods of New Hampshire has a rich tradition of welcoming rusticators starting in the mid-1800s. And so, as July rolled around, I rolled north for a little rusticating of my own. My route took me through Dixville Notch, where travelers are greeted by a surprising alpinesque scene on the western side of the pass. Presiding over tranquil Lake Gloriette, the Balsams Grand Resort was once the most popular tourist attraction in New Hampshire's Great North Woods region. The Balsams saw its heyday from shortly after the Civil War to the 1940s. In the early days, many guests arrived by horse-drawn carriage and spent the entire summer at the 11,000-acre property, which eventually grew to include downhill and cross-country ski trails and an 18-hole golf course designed by Donald Ross. After decades of decline, the Balsams was forced to close in 2011, although the area is optimistic about new management reopening the sprawling resort in the near future. Continuing east to the town of Colebrook, I picked up Route 3 and continued north towards Pittsburgh, passing indications that I was headed into a land of strange and wondrous things. While crossing paths with Sasquatch might have been a stretch, I did stand a good chance of coming face to face with an equally large and hairy beast, especially when I passed First Connecticut Lake and entered what is known as Moose Alley. The best time to launch a moose safari is in the early morning or at dusk, as well as at night when the animals are most active. And I don't care how many moose you've seen. Encountering a bull moose, even from the safety of a vehicle, is always a thrill. The 12-mile stretch of Route 3, known as Moose Alley, is famous for being one of the best places in New England to spot moose, even though their numbers have dropped dramatically in recent years due to winter tick infestation. Deer are also commonly seen along the roadsides, and I saw several before arriving at my destination, Deer Mountain State Park, where I had reserved an RV site. The small campground is strictly off-the-grid do-it-yourself, which of course is precisely what most people who come there are seeking. It doesn't offer power or running water, although campers can fill their water jugs at a roadside spring at the park entrance. A small pond, actually a dammed-up section of the Connecticut River, borders part of the campground, presenting the perfect opportunity for a late afternoon paddle. The surrounding countryside is filled with such small ponds and bogs where you can simply pull over to the side of the road and launch a small boat, kayak, or canoe. The next morning I was up early, and after a hearty, if not particularly healthy, breakfast of corned beef hash, eggs, and bacon, I drove north along Route 3 until I reached the imposing gates of the U.S.-Canada border station, nestled incongruously among the vast spruce forest. On the other side of the station is a short trail that eventually leads to a small, unremarkable pond in the forest, the waters of which, 410 miles downstream, would mingle with Atlantic salt. Believe it or not, this humble Beaver Bog is the source of the longest river in New England, the Connecticut, which flows through 4 states and has influenced so much of New England's history, culture, politics, and economy. The 4th Connecticut Lake Trail is just one of many hiking trails that wind through the Great North Woods and range from the kid-friendly to the technical. Mountain trails include McGalloway, Percy Peaks, and Brosseau. And then there's the Cohost Trail System, which extends 170 miles through the Great North Woods and includes numerous day hikes, including the Table Rock Trail in Dixville Notch, Falls in the River Trail, and the 4th Connecticut Lake Trail I had just hiked. Rusticating. It's a grand American tradition of getting back to nature, of sampling life as our settler forebears did, albeit in a much less dangerous or uncomfortable way. It's this urge to experience the natural world more intimately that led to the rise of sporting camps in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Indeed, many of these camps have endured in the Great North Woods, although most now welcome families and couples whose main goal is to simply unplug and relax in a beautiful setting. Take, for example, the Glen at Bear Tree on the shores of First Connecticut Lake. Once a rustic sporting camp catering mostly to fishermen, hunters, and snowmobilers, the lodge and surrounding cabins have been remodeled and updated. Accommodations include clean, cozy rooms inside the main lodge, cabins for families and couples, and a large cottage that can sleep up to 8. And of course, the Glen offers immediate access to all kinds of water-based activities, among them kayaking, fishing, and boating.
We have a lot of repeat customers, Betty's guests as well as ours, and the thing that they like the most is just coming to relax. There is plenty to do. There's snowmobiling, there's hiking, there's fishing, there's boating, but sitting on their deck and just looking at the view and having a coffee or a cocktail is what they like to do the most. We have many accommodations, anywhere from 2 guests to whole families that rent out the whole property. The Glen is a resort, so we can do up to 50 guests on this property. For example, the weddings bring in all their family and friends, and the resort is theirs for the weekend. We only do 1 wedding a weekend. So it's just their friends and family, and they have the run of the place. But if it's a vacationing couple, they can have a 2-person cabin, and then you can have a family of 6 take one of the cabins, and the main lodge is available for rent for private events as well. So there's plenty of options.
Just down the road is another venerable lodge that has become a popular gathering spot for families and folks who just want to escape. Established in 1928, the Cabins at Lobstick is one of the oldest sporting camps in the Great North Woods. It has retained a large following among fishermen and hunters, and is headquarters to Lobstick Outfitters, an Orvist-endorsed fishing and bird hunting guide service. You can purchase flies, rods, reels, apparel, and more at the office store, but the coffee and advice are always free. Bill Bernhardt is head guide at Lobstick, and on my last day in the Great North Woods, I headed out with him on a drift boat trip along the Connecticut. We launched Bill's boat at the public ramp in Canaan, Vermont, and set off downriver on what was to be one of the best days of river fly fishing I'd ever experienced. The Connecticut is a tailwater fishery, and the cold water released from the bottom of the various lakes along its upper stretches creates ideal conditions for brook, brown, and rainbow trout, along with landlocked salmon in some parts of the river.
So this stretch on the Connecticut is what we call the upper stretch, the upper float that we have. So in conjunction, we have a middle float, and then we also have the lower float also. Mm-hmm. So this stretch of river here is probably 17 miles or so down below Lake Francis, so below Murphy Dam. So it's a tailwater. So even all day long and all summer long, it's going to be cold.
One of the things I like best about guiding is just every day is different. It's still, and I often get asked the question, why, after so many years. But it's like, not every day is the same. You have like one thing in plan and you're going to go out and you're going to do that. And then all of a sudden the charter like, no, that's not going to happen. It's like, you're going to have to like switch gears. You're going to have to try this. You're going to try that. And it's like trying to figure this out. It's like every day is a new puzzle. So it's very challenging. And also, some days aren't, the nicest. Some days, you're out in the office and the ceiling's leaking and the AC is not working. But, more often than not, you're in a beautiful spot and it's just gorgeous. And then also just the thrill of like, turning people onto it. It's, people really dig this type of stuff, so, and it's not something that a lot of folks often will get a chance to do. And that I can expose them to that and, and they have a positive experience. So it's very rewarding.
While a drift boat makes it easy to access many parts of the Connecticut, wade fishing is equally popular and productive, and there are numerous spots where an angler can simply pull over, hike down to the water, and have at it. Like many of the people who have made the Great North Woods their permanent home, Bill is carrying on a grand tradition, one of facilitating the visitor's connection to the natural world and its many wonders. To a modern-day rusticator like me, who must return to the urban and suburban world, he leads an enviable life indeed. If river fishing isn't your thing, that's no problem, as the numerous lakes and ponds throughout the region hold everything from smallmouth bass to lake trout. One such water body is Lake Wallace in nearby Canaan, Vermont, home to Jackson's Lodge. Gloria Jackson and Mark Leveley are the proud proprietors of this former sporting lodge with a nearly 100-year history, and consider themselves stewards of what has long served as a beloved gathering place for the families that return year after year, with an emphasis on unplugging, reconnecting, and relaxing.
So in 1986, when I purchased the lodge from my mom and dad, I was the only one of the girls in a position to be able to do that. And I wasn't really ready to do this because we all worked here a whole lot, growing up with my parents. But I'm glad that I did now. I mean, I've carried on the tradition that they started. We have guests today that were coming here when my mom and dad were running the lodge back in the 50s and 60s. So they sold it to me in 86. They had they ran it 28 years before I took over. And this is my 33rd year of carrying on the family tradition that my parents started here. I think our repeat customers that have been coming for years, the families that I grew up with when I was growing up are now here with their kids and their grandchildren. They come here to disconnect, and they do things as a family. They're out on the beach, they're playing, they're having games out in the field and campfires at night and telling the stories of the good old days when they were here with their parents. And and the kids love coming back. A lot of the families will tell me it's the kids that want them to come back here because the kids have so much fun when they're here. My name is Gloria Jackson. I am the proprietress of Jackson's Lodge here in Canaan, Vermont.
So, as you see, the art of rusticating is very much alive and well in the far corners of New England, along with a wide range of places from which to pursue one's outdoor passions. From rustic to refined, today you'll find a variety of accommodations to call home while you explore the outdoors. And while the range of activities for doing so may have expanded, one thing remains unchanged: the American desire to reconnect with nature and the benefits that brings. Explore New England is brought to you by your New England Ford dealers, your local REI co-op. REI believes a life outdoors is a life well lived. Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance. And visitnewengland.com. Additional funding and support for this episode was provided by the North Country Chamber of Commerce, Bangor Savings Bank, the Coas Economic Development Corporation, the Borders Development Corporation, and the State of New Hampshire.